In this video, we're going to go over 5 things not to write in your free response question answers. Number 1, bias. When students don't know what to write, they tend to fall back on saying something causes bias or reduces bias. Don't mention the word bias at all unless you're able to identify a specific type of bias that is present, such as voluntary response, selection bias, undersampling, etc. For example, stratifying the students by their gender reduces bias. This is too general of an answer. It won't get you credit. You need to add on and go further by saying, since without stratifying, it would be possible that male students or female students will be overrepresented in the sample. Number 2, variability. Students fall back on making vague statements about variability. Don't say something eliminates or reduces or decreases variability or variation unless you can explicitly explain how it is changing the variability, such as randomly assigning subjects to treatments reduces variability. By spreading external sources of variation across all of the different treatment groups and making sure that any differences in the response variable across those groups can be attributed directly to the treatment. Number 3, vague wording about improvement. Students tend to make vague statements about something being better or worse without explaining why. Don't state that something is more or less reliable or use any similar type of wording unless you're prepared to justify that statement. For example, larger sample sizes make the results of the hypothesis test more reliable. There's no justification here. It's not clear that you understand why that's true. You need to also say, since larger samples result in smaller standard deviation, making it easier to identify unusual sample results that are statistically significant. Number 4, confounding and lurking variables. This is a big one. Students tend to really throw these terms around, and in most instances, they add nothing to your answer. Don't mention the phrase confounding variable or lurking variable unless you are able to suggest a specific example of the variable that may be present. For example, not randomly assigning fertilizers to plants may cause a confounding variable, as it's possible that certain groups of plants will receive less sunlight on average than other groups, thus leading to a situation where different growth rates in plants could be attributable to either the treatment, being the fertilizer, or the sunlight, which is the confounding variable. And number 5, skewed results. Many of you have a habit of saying that a negative design aspect, like a lack of blinding or small sample sizes, skew the results. We want to reserve the word skew to describing a distribution that has a tail on either the left or right side. Don't say something skews the results unless you can identify the direction of the skew and provide justification. For example, sampling only AP students may skew the test scores. That's not enough. We want to say that it skews the test scores higher, since those students are likely to perform better on the test than the student population as a whole. Lastly, always write your answers in the context of the problem. Stats is a real-world math class with real-world problems, and you're being graded on real-world answers.